Welcome, college baseball fans, ACC fans especially, because this is an ACC show. I am joined by Micah, who, by the way, did an outstanding job providing content for the ACC tournament despite not being on site for most of the week and working an entirely other tournament at the same time. The one thing I want to do before we get started, I want to wear the ETSU hat. He had a great season. Micah, how are you doing? I know you're tired, but how are you feeling on the eve of Selection Monday?
I mean, I'm good. Obviously, you said I'm exhausted. We're one of those tournaments that believes still in the double elimination process all the way to the end, which I think is a really nice touch that the SoCon does. So today, our champion Wofford had to win 2 games and got it done. So made me feel a little bit better that Wofford knocked ETSU out last night too. So congratulations to the Wofford Terriers, first regional since I think 2007. I think so. Obviously, super excited for them to get that experience again. But no, I mean I'm pretty good, Monty. I mean I'm a little nervous now after the whole regional host thing about what that means for the ACC. But and I know I have obviously some favoritism towards Georgia Tech and the ACC teams, but I'm a little confused on some of these projections I'm seeing that don't even include Georgia Tech, which just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, we're going to be talking probably the bulk of the show about the hosting and the regional stuff. Obviously, selection show is at noon tomorrow, East Coast time. But first, we have an ACC champion. Micah, did you get to follow any of that game? Get to watch any of it?
When I tell you, Monty, I watched 3 at-bats. You want to know the 3 at-bats I watched?
Cam Smith?
Let's just say 2 of them included a grand slam, and one of them included an at-bat right after the grand slam.
So, which grand slam? There were 2.
I did see a lot of highlights.
There were 2 grand slams.
I know. I said I saw both of them.
Oh, okay. You saw both of them. I didn't catch that. Sorry. I thought you saw one of them and then okay. So, yeah, it was a monster performance by Duke. I said before the game, I don't know if you had a chance to see my video, but I said the key to the game was going to be Carson Dorsey if he could be effective and give Florida State some length because they are out of pitching. Ultimately, he was done in the second inning. He allowed the bases to get loaded, and then he plunked Wallace Clark, and then that was it for him. They went to can't remember who they went to, but they immediately gave up Noah Short, the grand slam, or not grand slam. They gave up a double to Kyle Johnson, and then they almost got out of the inning with just the 3 runs, and then they gave up a 2 RBI single to AJ Grazia, and that made it 5-2. And from there, I felt like Duke was in control. The next amount of runs would be the Ben Miller grand slam, and then later Devin Obie hit a grand slam, his 3rd home run of the tournament. He is the tournament MVP. They win 16-4. And Micah, when you saw this, how did you feel about Duke's hosting possibilities?
They should be hosting.
Well, at that moment, without knowing what was happening, you thought they were in.
They should have been hosting. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the worst case scenario was that I wasn't, because I mean, obviously, right? You're probably not getting 7 ACC hosts. Like, my brain goes, okay, that probably means that's it for Wake, which stinks because I don't think that was fair. But I mean, that is.
Yeah, I think that was the common thought process across. I don't know about the country. I would think so, but across the conference for sure was that if Duke lost, Wake would get a hosting spot, and if Duke won, Duke would get the hosting spot. Ultimately, neither happens. I was a bit stunned at that. I know, Duke won 20 games on aggregate. We know Wake Forest resume was great, but there were some very questionable decisions made. And then, of course, there were some inconsistent like thought processes from the committee.
No, there was no thought process, Monty. There was no thought process. This is ridiculous. This sport is way too big of a deal to too many people for there to be just no transparency. This is worse than the college football playoff committee, and I can't stand how they do their stuff. One year it's RPI. Most years it's RPI. And yet somehow now it's not RPI anymore. Now it's what we feel like doing. Like the Pac-12 has sucked all year, and we have 2 Pac-12 hosts.
Yeah, I thought for sure it'd be one, if that.
Like, I understand Arizona. I really do. Their RPI might not match it, but, at the bare minimum, right? They won the regular season. They won the conference tournament title. Like, they justified hosting.
Yep.
But then Oregon State should not be hosting because they couldn't even get their conference semifinals. They didn't win the regular season. But their RPI is pretty good because they travel a decent amount.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculous, man. And then, like, you see ECU get in, and I don't want to slander ECU. They're a good ball club. But, I mean, you if you listen to D1 baseball, right, Aaron Fitt went off on it because they're injured. That doesn't normally help you. That's not an excuse that benefits you. If you were injured 3 months ago and now you're healthy, and that was why your RPI is down, fine. They have lost more games than they have won in the last 2 weeks.
There's an ACC team in football that was punished for an injury.
Yeah, like it just makes zero sense. And we live in the modern world now where the transparency is the easiest thing in the world. If you tell me going into the year, Monty, we want to go back to the way college baseball used to be, which is regionality, then you know what? These regions make complete sense. You got a little bit of everything sprinkled in. The only one I'd still question is ECU over Indiana State because wouldn't you want a Midwest regional? But other than that, I get it. But it's just... And I genuinely believe Duke's getting punished for Coombs, which, again, I can get to a point, but that shouldn't matter all that much.
And they're not going to admit that either.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I would rather the committee just come out and say we're not playing at Coombs. Yeah, you might say you can host a regional there. We do not believe you can, because then that would probably send a message to Duke like, hey, you got to actually do something about your facilities besides saying you renovated it and really only be player renovations.
Why approve them to host a regional if then you're going to take their facilities into account?
Correct. Exactly. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, again, maybe having 3 regionals all within 30 minutes of each other is not the most reasonable thing either. And again, those types of things need to be explained. Hopefully they're explained a little bit tomorrow. I doubt they will be. But, across the board, I'm just so confused. Oh, I am Colin. I mean, I do think that, like, again, there's no transparency. The ACC and the SEC have been Monty, I'm going to lose my mind if Georgia Tech gets left out tomorrow. And Colin said hopes the Gators get in. I don't have necessarily I don't think Florida should be in because of the record. But if they get in because they played a tough schedule and they did do well in SEC play. They were pretty solid in SEC
13 and 18.
Yeah, fair. But if you want to reward the SEC difficulty, right, then I better not see no Pac-12 Cal in. I better not see Charleston in. No offense to the CAA. That is not the ACC.
Florida's probably going to get in, and they shouldn't. They don't deserve it. I think they're a team that could go on a run. That doesn't mean they deserve to be in. They're very talented, but what are we doing here? I mean, and they've got the reason I think they're going to get in. They got a man in the room. How do you have? How can this be third party? You've got people with I think they said on D1 perfectly. There's people with a vested interest in their own agendas rather than for the greater good, and that's coming straight from I can't remember which of the D1 guys said it, but it's perfectly true with the process.
I think it was
Mark Eldridge.
Yeah, Mark, I believe so. Yeah. I don't want to say it was 100% for sure him, but I'm almost positive it would have been him, Fit, or Rogers, and I know it wasn't Rogers, and I don't think it was Fit because Fit had a different fit. But
Canes, Cats, Heat, I agree with you. I do not think they deserve it. It's not whether they're good enough, because if it comes down to being good enough, I think there's plenty of teams that are good enough to be in the tournament. It's whether they deserve it, and I don't think they do.
And my thing, Monty, is I don't care necessarily. I will debate if you say deserve it or, who's better. If you want to make it an opinion-based thing, that's fine. I don't care. I really do not care. But then just tell us it's all about opinion. And if it's all about opinion, then the ACC should be like Louisville should be in for their 16-14 ACC record, because like Monty, the CAA is getting projected 3 teams. Their conference power ranking is below the SoCon. And ETSU, whose RPI is 8 spots behind Charleston, isn't even being considered by anybody. And I'm not saying that ETSU should be in, because at the end of the day, I understand it's all about who you play and your quad 1 wins and the full scope of everything, right? Like ETSU had a couple Power 5 games where we got smoked. So if that's what leaves us out, so be it. But at this end of the day, man, like you got to pick and choose one. You can't just pick what's convenient for your argument and then switch to a different argument, then go back to that argument, then switch to the argument. And that's what we're getting to. I mean, again, I've already started to embrace, Monty, that Georgia Tech's out, and I'm going to be livid. I am going to lose it. Now, if Louisville's out, fine. They had a chance to go. Like, I just don't. If Georgia Tech gets punished for the pool that they had, which is 2 regional hosts in the ACC tournament, that's the reason they're out. This sport is ridiculous.
Real quick, I highlighted it on the screen a second ago while you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt, but and Dennis 133 made a great point. Georgia Tech not having a man in the room compared to some of the other bubble teams hurts them, which sucks. And again, that should not be a part of the process that matters, and yet it seems to be. Real quick before we move on, I do want to make sure we address the 5 ACC teams that did get selected as hosts. Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, NC State, and Virginia. I almost forgot Virginia.
I'm going to say the one you're going to, most likely, more than likely.
Most likely the one I am going to. It's going to come down to whether Duke goes to Greenville, because that's going to be hard to pass up that opportunity. Yeah. And then UNC, if they have a wacky one, that might be intriguing. But it's most likely Virginia that I'm at. But yeah, it's ridiculous. However, I do think the ACC is going to get 3 of the top 8 national seeds, but I don't understand how you end up with just 7 teams getting into, like, this conference is so good, you're going to end up with just giving 7 bids.
Yeah, like, hey, you're so good that, you know, you're going to tie a record for the most regional hosts and have the most amount with the SEC, but then, yeah, no one else is really that good in your conference. That doesn't make any sense. That math doesn't add up.
By the way, Georgia Tech has they swept NC State.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Duke. They beat Virginia on the road. They have 6 ACC series wins on the year.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? How is that not a tournament caliber team in the second best conference in the country?
Like when I do my bracketology, I know mine's not going to be perfect, right? I mean, I got 4 hosts wrong already. But I didn't even have Georgia Tech as a bubble team, or as a last 4 in. It just didn't make any sense to me. Like TCU struggled in the Big 12 play. They had a worse, like everyone keeps going back to, well, Georgia Tech was 15-15 ACC play. That is better than TCU in Big 12 play. And the Big 12 analytically is behind the ACC. Like again, I said it in my video. The ACC is closer to the SEC than the Big 12 is to the ACC. That makes no sense. If you're going to say the SEC is all powerful and should have 11 teams in, then the ACC better be not 11 teams, but 8. If you're saying it's, that much of a difference. So I don't know, Monty.
And Dennis, another great point. 11 SEC versus 7 ACC seems like too wide of a gap. It really should be 10-8. I'd have no problem with that. It really should be 10-9, I would think. But yeah, it's just disappointing. I think Georgia Tech has done a great job. Hopefully they what D1 is thinking is wrong. D1's not saying Georgia Tech doesn't deserve it. They are trying to guess what the committee is going to do. And right before we came on this show, D1 was doing their nerdcast with their 3 specialists, and they had the last spot coming down to Charleston, Georgia Tech, and Cal. And they actually pulled up the KPI, which is a new metric that the committee supposedly is using for this purpose. That's a little bit more, I guess, I don't know if I want to say the word accurate, but supposedly a little bit more accurate than RPI, right? And Georgia Tech had one of 34, and the other 2 were in the 50s. And yet they left Georgia Tech, and they think the committee's going to leave Georgia Tech off. They ended up putting in Charleston. I don't get it.
If the CAA gets 3 teams in and the Southern Conference only gets 1 and Georgia Tech gets left out in all of this, I will lose my mind because that just doesn't make any sense. And then, I mean, Monty, I love the ACC people. I really do. But we got to start waking up, man. We are falling so far. Like, why does it feel like there's not that many people pushing to get these teams in? Why do I feel like it takes, shout out to oh gosh, Andrew Clausen, geez.
Andrew Clausen of
Yeah, at
yes,
Georgia Tech
Georgia
for
Tech.
sending out that email to everybody. Shout out to, what Aaron and Duke did to push their regional hosting. Shout out to, I mean, I don't want to give myself too much credit, right? But I mean, we got 30 to 40,000 impressions on those videos. I mean, got some people riled up, but that's the whole point. The whole point is to start a conversation. Because guess what? We were getting riled up when I turned into every SEC game for a little bit and saw the different stats of why the SEC should have more teams in. What are we doing? Like, we're not doing ourselves any favors. And I'm not trying to criticize what the ACC does from a standpoint of they're not doing their jobs right. But you got to start getting creative. We all got to start getting creative because this conference deserves to be recognized for what they are. I mean, it's just so frustrating. True. I forgot about the propaganda department that they have there at the SEC. But no,
it just means, hey, Micah, how'd you forget? It just means more.
That's a good point. It just means less propaganda in the ACC. But
yeah, but yeah, what were your thoughts on the 5 teams that were selected?
Monty, I don't want to insult my Virginia Cavaliers, but I do. I genuinely believe that Wake or Duke should have hosted over them. I don't understand. I don't understand the pushback on Wake. I mean, I understand their 15-15 ACC record. It's not that much far behind the next team.
And their RPI was what, 12?
9. I mean, I'm glad Virginia's hosting. I do think they deserve the host, but there needs to be some. I mean, Duke took the series with Virginia and won the ACC tournament. And
I'm not sure Virginia was even that close to not hosting.
No, they that was what was weird was I felt like Virginia locked it up.
A lot of people were having
after losing a series to NC State.
Yeah, a lot of projections had between 10 and 12 when I thought they're closer to the 14-16 range.
Yeah, and they might fall to that anyways, but I mean, at this point, I don't know how they can. ECU, in my opinion, has to be the 16, that or Arizona. And then, or Oregon State, any of those pick a Pac-12.
I think those are probably your 3 bottom.
But then, Virginia's probably going to be above Santa Barbara. Virginia's probably going to be above one of the Oklahoma or Oklahoma States, I'm assuming. I would say put them above Oklahoma, but I don't know, man. Tomorrow, Monty, my plan is to sleep in until 11:35. As much as I want to be pushing propaganda, it's going to make me sick. It's going to only frustrate me more if it doesn't work. So I'm probably we've done our efforts, and I think we're just going to just try to sleep as long as we can, wake up, and hopefully not be too grumpy afterwards.
Yeah, well, I will be sleeping in. Do you know where I am?
You are in Durham.
I am in Durham.
I told you, Monty, when I bought this shirt, I told you they're going to win it because I'm only going to have the shirt of a champion. So, I mean, I know I got it all wrong in our pick'ems, which I've come to the conclusion. It's just at this point funny just to pick everything opposite of everybody else because then I look like a goofball. But I did. Monty can attest. I did say when I bought this shirt, Duke is winning the tournament.
Yep, I did forget about that until you reminded me just now. But you did say that. I forgot, yeah, no, great for Duke, but I will be there tomorrow. I was hoping to talk about how excited they were to host their first regional at Coombs in program history. I think this could end up being a good thing for Duke. Number one, they're going to end up being a high 2 going to a low 1, which puts them in a winnable region, a more winnable region perhaps than being a low 1 with a high 2. Because who knows? Maybe they get stuck with LSU. If they're a low 1, right? And the way LSU's playing.
Monty, are you prepared to hear the Dukes flying out to Santa Barbara? Because that's where my brain's already gone to.
Again, I mean, if they go to Santa Barbara or Corvallis, those are very winnable regions for Duke. I already talked to Mark is a big Oregon State guy. He watches them all the time. He does not want Duke as part of his regional from a fan standpoint. Now, I will admit he does want Duke because he loves Duke. but he doesn't necessarily want that from an Oregon State point of view. But yeah, that might be the case. But their players, the other thing that I think is going to happen is they're going to want to make a statement. These guys are going to want. They're already red hot after winning 4 straight this week without Sam Tucci and Kyle Johnson. It's going to be really interesting. So I'm excited to see where they do end up. But it's going to be. I'm sure they're going to be pissed off. As much as I wanted to text and ask what the mood is, I'm sure they wouldn't necessarily tell me on the record. So I didn't even try to ask because I imagine it's a stupid question. They're probably disappointed. And probably a little pissed off because I feel like they think they earned it.
I think the good thing is, Monty, if there's one team that I think can go on the road and just send a message because of the extra motivation, it's them. This could be the motivation that gets them to Omaha. Because this was just straight disrespect.
It's interesting you bring that up because it reminds me of 2009. UVA had never been to an Omaha. Everyone was talking
they've never been to an Omaha. What, any Omaha, like Omaha, Ohio?
No, they hadn't. That UVA had never gotten to Omaha for any reason. No, they hadn't gotten to Omaha.
Is there an Omaha, Virginia, Monty? Just out of curiosity.
Can I just finish my thought here? No wonder, Nick. No.
Go ahead.
But anyway, they hadn't gotten to Omaha. Brian O'Connor's getting all the head coaching praise, just like Pollard does. Everyone's wondering when they're going to get over that hump, right? And they finally did in 2009. But what happened was they won the ACC tournament, going 4-0. They get snubbed. They don't get selected as a host. Not only do they not get selected as a host, they have to go across the country to UC Irvine as a number 2. And UC Irvine at the time was in some publications ranked number 1 in the nation. To further give them disrespect, they got to face the best pitching prospect on the planet in Steven Strasburg in the first game.
Right. I forgot about that.
And Virginia went in, and that's what got them over the hump. So it's funny when you mention that because I was getting shades of this 2009 UVA team from this Duke situation. Same thing where Pollard's a great coach, but can they get over the hump? When are they going to get over the hump? Going 4-0 and not getting a hosting bid. Those are just things that made me think of that because, again, I grew up a UVA fan, and that 2009 situation was crazy. And yet all that disrespect kind of factored into Virginia going out there and making a statement and then going to Ole Miss in a super regional and winning there to finally punch their ticket.
I think it's going to be really funny when Duke hosts a super regional, though.
Yeah. And Dennis brought up Duke is probably going to ECU, I would think. I would love that. I think Duke would love that. ECU thinks they would love that. I don't think they would, especially if Savage isn't back.
I'm willing to bet a ton of money, Monty, that Wake's going to ECU.
I don't think ECU would want
Duke's
that either.
going to ECU this year. I guarantee you they're going to throw Wake there.
I wouldn't. Yeah, that does make sense now that you pointed that out. But
Duke to Georgia makes more sense than Duke to ECU, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Though I will say, sending Wake to Georgia instead, Condon and Kurtz, oh my goodness. Chef's kiss.
Kane's Cat says they're going to send Duke somewhere like Arkansas because they don't like the ACC.
Monty, if that happens, you and I are going together. We're covering Duke together. I want to go to Fayetteville. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. Duke is the big news tonight, not getting a host. Duke and Wake Forest not getting a host, either one, because, again, we thought one or the other. We thought it would be Duke when they won the championship today. I don't get it. Now, the question is, are we going to get 3 top 8 seeds? I think we are. What are your thoughts there?
At this point, I don't think so. Well,
I thought you
I'm
were
a
going to say
little
at
worried
this
about.
point.
I'm worried about Florida State right now. If they're
I think the margin of victory.
Go ahead.
I thought the margin of victory might play a factor.
That could play a factor. I'm more just worried about the fact that when you factor in everything that went down, I have a feeling that you're going to have at least 4 SECs there. in my opinion, with Arkansas, A&M, Tennessee, and Kentucky. You're going to get the 2 ACCs for sure. That's 6. I would not be surprised if you see, the likes of Oklahoma or Oklahoma State as one of them. And then from there, I guess you could probably go. I would go Florida State over Georgia, but I think RPI benefits Georgia. It does. So I don't know, Monty. I hope so. I really, really hope so.
Do you, looking at your regional sites, where do you think you're going to end up? You think you're still looking to see where the ACC ends up, or is there something you're eyeing?
To be honest, based off the regional sites that I've seen, none of them get me out of the bed in the morning. Besides ECU, I think ECU would be the most exciting one. There's been a debate in our page at Fifth Quarter ACC about ECU as a region. I wasn't trying to say ECU from a standpoint of electricity and stuff doesn't deserve it, because I think that there's not many better college baseball fans. Especially, I'll die on the hill. I think ECU might have the best fans in the region. They're just that crazy. They just breathe baseball. It's impressive to them. I really do give kudos to ECU, but that one's obviously enticing. But unfortunately, Monty, none of the host sites for the ACC minus Tallahassee really get me over the moon. That's not a shot at any of the fan bases. Just again, it really just depends on the matchups and kind of what situations we get from that. Again, I hope to go wherever Georgia Tech goes, but if Georgia Tech doesn't go anywhere, I don't know what I'm going to do, Monty, because that probably means Louisville's out, right? If Georgia Tech's out, the only thing that's saving Georgia or Louisville, I guess, was if they really factor in conference record. But 16 and 14 really do that much more than 15 and 15? I'd say probably not. But
yeah, by the way, great question brought up. You and I had watched a little bit of D1's initial part of their show.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, we didn't actually get to their projections. What are your thoughts on that? What you're seeing here? The D1 page just did their final projections, and they had TCU as the number 2 seed in Clemson. Thoughts?
I don't want to put this evil on me, Monty, because that's going to probably make me sick to my stomach. Virginia would deserve them, not Clemson. If LSU goes to any top 8 national seed, this committee is clueless.
Yeah, I think LSU should be going to Oklahoma. One of the two. Oklahoma.
That's what I had projected. Oklahoma State, even, or again, if LSU is as good as, again, if they want to punish LSU per se, or I hate to say it, LSU to ECU makes a lot of sense. Hey, ECU, congratulations, you got to host, but enjoy the SEC, or I guess runner-up. I almost said champion, but enjoy the SEC runner-up and defending national champion. Enjoy. And good luck getting a ticket to that region.
Here's a fun one just for the storylines because of Tommy White's return to NC State.
That would be fun. That would be something for sure. But yeah, I don't know, Monty. Tomorrow at this point, I was gonna put out another bracket, and I might just mess around with one tomorrow just for fun if I am up and kind of alive and well, just to kind of see what I come up with. But at this point, I am so confused on what the committee is going to do because it just doesn't make any sense anymore. Unless you're in the room, there's really no way of figuring it out because, it's always been RPI has kind of been the main factor. And you can kind of and there are some reasons for everything, but I don't know, Monty. I have a really bad feeling that the ACC is going to really catch the short end of the stick here. And I'm going to be honest, Monty, if that happens, that's the 3 biggest sports on the men's side that has happened to in the calendar year or academic year. Because football got screwed with Florida State, basketball got screwed with how the ACC barely got any of their respect that they deserved in the field. If the ACC baseball season goes the same way, we need to have a conversation. But I don't like all the negativity, Monty.
Yeah,
where's Duke's watch party at, Monty? Tell me a little bit about
it's going to be at Cameron Indoor.
That's sick.
Yeah, so they've got it's not going to be actually on the floor, on the basketball facility. It's going to be they've got a hall in there, but still.
Oh, No, I mean, I know what room it is. It's upstairs because I accidentally stumbled upon it when I was there for the baseball game. So that's going to be cool.
Yeah,
Nice
it's gonna be
little
a lot of fun. Hopefully I'll be able to pull guys aside for interviews. I'm not sure the logistics yet, because ideally I'd go in there and participate in our live selection show that we do, but I'm not sure if that's feasible.
Are we doing a live selection show? I don't even know anything about that.
So every year we do a live selection show from College Baseball Central, and we stream the ESPN thing and react.
Thanks for the invite, everyone that's out
Actually,
there on College Baseball Central's team.
I think we'll talk about this afterwards. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that because I don't know the logistics on site, but I'm excited for that. I mean, NC State, I also saw what their watch party is in Cary. They're at it looks like a restaurant in Cary. That could be fun. I saw Clemson's. I forgot to see where theirs was. Virginia, they don't invite the media into the watch party. They do interviews afterwards on the field. So I guess they're in the facility watching and eating, and then they come out, and or a couple of them come out, and Oak comes out. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. But question was asked if we cover the Cape and New England League once the NCAA tournament ends. I mean, we try to. It's really tough to do. I've watched a lot of the Cape last year. It's tough to do because some of the quality is not great, and the player turnover is insane. So it's really tough to do. Micah will be working a summer league, right?
Yep, the good old Appalachian League.
Yep. So Micah will be busy, but I would love to be able to cover the Cape more because it's a lot of fun to keep following all these guys as they go on. But a lot of times it's hard to do. So we'll try. It's just we'll see what actually happens because I'm also going to need to rest in the next couple of weeks because I've barely slept. Mike and I barely slept this week. So, but before we finish up, let's say Georgia Tech doesn't get in, which would result in us rioting, but Wake gets East Carolina in their regional in Greenville. Are you going to that regional?
I don't want to say too much out loud, Monty, but that's the one place that didn't credential me this year. So I don't even know if I could get to go to that regional.
East Carolina? Oh, or Wake Forest. So because you couldn't get the credentials through Wake Forest either. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that would be the goal, but I doubt it. I really do. I'm not paying that ticket price.
No, absolutely not. No.
But if I can get a credential, then yeah, that probably would be the move. Or Monty, again, if you follow Duke somewhere, then I'll take Charlottesville.
yeah.
But
I mean, if Duke goes to Greenville, I
will say I have, shout out to Cole. I don't know if Cole ever watches these, but I did talk to him, a little bit in Charlotte. I would love to go to I've only experienced Clemson Monty in midweeks. I've never experienced it on a weekend.
That would be something.
So that would be something I would really want to do because I know that fan base is awesome.
A reasonable distance.
Correct. Yeah, it's a 3-hour drive. It's very, very. It's one of those things where again, it's very doable. It'd be kind of funny that I'd be basically in the same spot I was just in, less than 3 hours ago. But
all right, we're going to take one more question here from Canes Cats Heat, even though it's a little bit off topic. He keeps bringing up Matt Bedford. I don't know anything about the portal situation, but would you take Matt Bedford on Virginia? I don't know anything about his portal situation, but I would take him for sure.
I mean, yeah, I think at the end of the day, anytime you can get even if it's just a name, right, like that, I think it's beneficial. But and plus, like selfishly, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he was supposed to be a Kingsport Axeman for a little bit there. But no, I mean, I would take him on Virginia. I think everyone should kind of want him. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I know it's definitely different for weekends at Clemson. I've been fortunate that when I've gone, a lot of times these Clemson midweeks have been good ones, like a Kansas State or things of that nature. But it's definitely not the same thing.
Baseball America has Wake going to Athens. Ooh.
So fun fact, actually, Monty, I currently have a hotel booked in Athens.
By accident?
Just in case. In Athens.
When did you do that?
Like 24 hours ago.
Oh, okay. I thought you just like some reason, just for some reason, was like, oh, I'm going to Athens in May or June, May, yeah, end of May.
No, I when it kind of felt like that was the trend with Georgia Tech, I was like, let's just get these now. I mean, granted, that's a commute game for Georgia Tech fans, so it means a little bit more free space for hotels, but I know how this works. Once they announce the regional, they go, so wanted to get ahead of it, especially in a college town like
Yeah,
Athens.
would you go to that one if Wake went there instead?
Absolutely.
Condon. I mean, the star power there alone. Condon
And
and Collins versus Seaver King and
and
Chase
and
Burns.
for any Georgia Tech people that are watching, every Georgia fan I walk up to because they bark at everybody, I'm gonna be like bzz, 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 in their face the whole time, just to psych them out. I got you guys, but I'll never forget that, Monty, when Sierra and I went to the Tennessee Georgia game when that was that 1-versus-2 matchup, and I thought the barking was a joke, and I wore Tennessee stuff to be a supportive person, because she's a Tennessee fan, and we got barked at. We legit got barked at, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." So, yeah. Anyways,
All right. Anyway, that's great. I don't know what our plans are for tomorrow night. I would imagine we're probably going to try and do a show. Hopefully, Mike is well rested. But College Baseball Central is doing a show at 12 o'clock Eastern. They'll have the stream up, the ESPN stream, and be reacting to it. I will tell you, if you're watching it live while also watching us, you're going to be ahead of the stream. I learned that last year because I was spoiling it a little bit for my fellow co-hosts. I would go, ooh, and react, and they'd have to wait about 10 seconds to see why I was making that noise. But we'll have that. I'm going to be at Duke, so I'll have content there. Hopefully, we're going to be able to bring on some players, interview Coach Pollard once they figure out where they're going. Chad, we're going to record an episode tomorrow night. I think
together,
tomorrow night. Huh?
together, like in the same room, or
I didn't think so. He has to know. He hasn't filled me in on his schedule yet. So I figured we were just going to do it tomorrow night when I got back. We've got a lot to talk about. He and I were texting throughout the Chase Burns start because he was also at the stadium watching. He also got in the game today, had a single up the middle. So really great moment for him. Great moment for, it was really cool for me to see because, I'm like, man, that's my podcast host out there hitting a single back up.
But you know nothing about him because you forgot he was a Little League World Series All-Star.
I did.
I listened to the last show.
Yep.
That was so funny. Like, I hope it's not Chad Knight. I'm like, it's Chad Knight, Monty.
Yep. Yep. And speaking of Little League stars, Little League legend Devin Obie is the ACC tournament MVP. So props to him. But yeah, we're gonna have lots of content coming out all across the conferences. I would imagine. I'm hoping the other conferences are doing stuff.
Speaking of that all tournament team, I wanted to quickly defend my decision on Jamie Arnold and good old Chuck Bielenson as the pitchers. First off, for those of you that don't know, I just want to make sure, because Monty can back this up, we have never seen a more frustrating format to vote for an all-star team in my entire life. I mean, because every single player was available for every single position. I will be the first one to admit that I missed Nick Kurtz at the beginning, selected Logan Bravo, and then decided to stick with it when I realized that I should have selected Nick Kurtz because he was listed as an outfielder, Monty. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I did not notice that.
But he is listed as, if you look at when you sent the screenshot,
when you've got
it says OF, like he's an outfielder. He's not utility, he's not infielder. He was listed as an outfielder for whatever reason. So I completely just zoomed past him because I was literally just looking at that kind of stuff. Because again, it was an alphabetical order, by the way, by first name.
Yeah, by first name.
So which made it even more annoying. So I completely missed him, went to Logan Bravo, which, as you would know, goes before Nick Kurtz would be in alphabetical order by first name. Well, I guess in by last name too. But then I was like, oh, shoot, I should have put Nick Kurtz. But I was like, Logan Bravo has been great this tournament. And on top of it, Nick Kurtz is going to win this. So there's like, not to say I threw away my vote, but I kind of was just like, I'm not going
win,
back.
Right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Kurtz got it. Yeah, Kurtz got it. And then on the pitching side, I'm sorry, guys. Chase Burns was electric for 6 innings. You want to know who actually made a major impact in the ACC tournament? This guy named Jamie Arnold, who won the game against Virginia, was the reason that Florida State won that game, in my opinion, because watch what happened with the bullpen after he left. And then he's the one that basically ended the Georgia Tech game. I mean, he was
He
the
did.
one.
He got the save.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like that was kind of like the this is over moment. Like, because Georgia Tech again was getting to that Florida State bullpen. When you pitch in 2 games in a 4-game tournament and you have a win and a save, that is more impressive to me than one quality start. That, by the way, I mean, not that it's Chase Burns' fault, right? But he didn't win the game. He didn't get the win.
And speaking of which, the reason you couldn't vote for Chase Burns and Jamie Arnold is because Charlie Bielensen's a freak and pitched in, I think, 3 of the 4 games.
I thought he pitched in all of them. Did he? Which one did he not pitch in?
The Miami.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, the Miami one. Because I think he would have. Wait, no, the Miami one he did because he came in. So
he pitched all of them then.
He might have pitched all of them. Yeah, he's just unbelievable. And the reason he pitched today is number one because again he's not going to get to pitch till Friday, and all the analytics. Pollard said this. All the analytics back it up. He pitches better the more often he throws. So he struggled the last time he had a week off.
Yeah, and if you pitch well in every single game you appear in, which is multiple games in a small format like this, and by the way, your team wins the championship, I'm picking you over again. One guy who had 1 start, who again was electric in that 1 start. But remember, this was only we could select 2. We couldn't select if it was 3. You know, my number 3 would have been Monty, and I'm sure it would have been your number 3 as well. Chase Burns. But we could only pick 2. That's why I picked. I don't want to speak for you, but I think we had the same pictures. But that's why I picked those 2 because at the end of the day, it's the all tournament team. And guess what? Chase Burns got the spot. So that's all that matters. Not everything's a troll. Some things I do is trolling. That was not a troll.
Yep. So anyway, you got any final thoughts other than that?
I can't wait to see Duke in Omaha.
Yeah, there we go. Duke is on a roll. Again, shades of 2009 Virginia. That's a long time ago, but we'll be back tomorrow. Lots of content coming. We're going to get some rest, and we'll see you guys on the flip side.